Country music star Morgan Wallen is speaking out in his first interview since he was caught on camera using a racial slur earlier this year. Wallen opened up about everything from racism in the music industry to his recent trip to rehab. Here's Michael Strahan.
There are going to be a lot of people who are going to watch this interview and say he's only sitting down because he wants to clean up his image. It's all a performance. So what do you say to that?
I understand that, I understand that I'm not ever going to make, everyone happy. I can only come tell my truth, and that's all I know to do.
Line 'em up and knock 'em down. 2 more, let's go. 'Cause I ain't never heard like this before.
28-year-old country music star Morgan Wallen quickly rose to fame with his 5-time multi-platinum chart-topping hit, Whiskey Glasses.
I'ma need some whiskey glasses.
The single cementing his place in country music, and his latest album, Dangerous, released in January, is the highest-selling and streaming album in all of music in the U.S. this year.
7 summers ago.
But in January, neighbors recorded this video obtained by TMZ, showing Wallen using a racial slur outside his Nashville home. The music world responded swiftly. Within hours, Wallen was suspended from his label, his songs pulled from the radio and streaming playlists, and he was declared ineligible for the upcoming Academy of Country Music Awards. When did you realize that what you had done was a big deal?
My manager called me probably 2 hours before the video came out. He's like, "Are you sitting down?" And no one's ever called me and said that before. I went to one of my friends has a house, out in the middle of nowhere. Just sitting in that house trying to figure out what it is I'm supposed to do.
So take me back to that night.
I had some of my, longtime friends in town. We'd kind of just been partying all weekend, and we figured we'd just go hard for the 2 or 3 days that they were there.
How did this happen? Out of nowhere? You just refer to someone with a racial slur?
No, I don't think it just happened. I was around some of my friends, and we stayed dumb stuff together. It was, in our minds, it's playful. I don't know if that sounds ignorant, but that's really where it came from, and it's wrong.
And had there been no video of the incident, we obviously wouldn't be sitting here right now. This is not the first time you said the word. This is a word that you use frequently amongst your friends.
I wouldn't say frequently, no, not frequently. It was just around this certain group of friends, I would say.
In what way was it used?
It's one of my best friends. We were all clearly drunk, and I was asking his girlfriend to take care of him because he was drunk and he was leaving. I didn't mean it in any derogatory manner at all.
There are a lot of people going to say, okay, we've been drunk, we never used the word. Even when you're drunk, there are certain things you do and you don't do. What made you think that the word was ever appropriate to use?
I'm not sure. I think I was just ignorant about it. I don't think I sat down and was like, "Hey, is this right or is this wrong?"
And do you know the history of the word?
Oh yeah, I've heard some stories in the initial conversations that I had after that, just how some people are treated even still today. And I'm just like, I haven't seen that with my eyes. That pain or that insignificant feeling or whatever it is that it makes you feel.
That goes back to slavery used by white people to dehumanize black people and make them feel less than. It's also, I think if you dig deeper, a word that a lot of black people heard before they were terrorized, beaten, or even possibly killed. So it's a word that really, I've been called it, makes you mad, makes you angry, doesn't make you feel good at all. So do you understand why it makes black people so upset?
I don't know how to put myself in their shoes because I'm not, but I do understand, especially when I say that I'm using it playfully or whatever, ignorantly. I understand that must sound, like he doesn't understand.
More than a week after Wallen was caught on camera using a racial slur, he posted this video apologizing and asking his fans not to defend his actions.
I also accepted some invitations from some amazing black organizations, some executives and leaders to engage in some very real and honest conversations.
Who did you speak with?
BMAC is one of the first organizations that I spoke with, the Black Music Action Coalition. I spoke with Kevin Lyles, I spoke with Eric Hutcherson, with BB Winans is another one that I spoke with. I went and checked myself into rehab. And for 30 days, I spent some time out in San Diego, California. you know, just trying to figure it out. Why am I acting this way? Do I have an alcohol problem? Do I have a deeper issue?
In the 9 days following the release of the video, downloads of Wallen's album skyrocketed by 500%. And that album has spent 24 weeks as #1 on the top country album charts.
Before this incident, my album was already doing well. It was already being well received by critics and by fans. Me and my team noticed that whenever this whole incident happened, that there was a spike in my sales. So we tried to calculate what the number of how much it actually spiked, you know, from this incident, and we got to a number somewhere around $500,000, and we decided to donate that money to some organizations, BMAC being the first one.
ABC News reached out to BMAC, but has not heard back. For some black country music artists, this controversy highlighted the racial disparities within the industry.
In the land of the free, you should try to be black like me.
The first black female country singer to be nominated for a Grammy, Mickey Guyton, tweeting, "When I read comments saying that this is not who we are, I laugh, because this is exactly who country music is. I question on a daily basis as to why I continue to fight to be in an industry that seems to hate me so much." So do you believe there is a race problem in country music overall?
I mean, it would seem that way. Yeah. You know, I haven't really sat and thought about that.
Although he was widely condemned by the industry back in the spring, Morgan Wallen has emerged from this scandal to become the best-selling artist of the year so far, according to Rolling Stone magazine. Some radio stations and award shows may have dropped him, but it didn't stop fans from buying his albums and streaming his music. Diane.
All right, Michael Strahan, thanks for that. And I want to bring in SiriusXM radio host and ABC News contributor Mike Muse, as well as Elsie Granderson, host of Life Out Loud podcast here on ABC News, for a little bit more on this. Elsie, first of all, thank you both for being here. Elsie, I'll start with you, because Wallen says this was dumb, but it was meant to be playful, not derogatory, and he admits he was ignorant. So what's your reaction to that? Do you accept his explanation and apology?
I accept his explanation. His apology is lacking to me, because I think there are some gaps there that either we didn't see because they were edited out, or they weren't brought up, or he didn't point to. Because it's just hard for me to listen to him talk about not being aware of that word, not being aware of the pain, while also being in this country since the death of George Floyd, since the murder of George Floyd. So what you're telling me is, through all of this 24/7 news coverage, through all of these national discussions, through all of these protests, through some of the riots, through all of this, it never dawned on you to see what this discussion was about? It never occurred to you to just spend 5 minutes just to even, do a cursory sort of overlook of this, of what's happening in society? I mean, we're not talking about Juneteenth or the Tulsa Massacre being scrubbed out of history books. We're talking about, in your lifetime, real racial tension is unfolding in our streets, and you want us to believe that you were just ignorant and naive. Now, I may accept your apology, but I'm not going to accept the rationale that you're trying to spin. What it sounds like to me, Diane and Mike, that you were well coached up, because the one word you didn't say during this interview was racism. And that is typically what happens when a good PR firm gets a hold of a white person who says something racist. The first thing they tell them is, don't say racism.
It's an interesting take. I didn't know that. Mike, as we heard in the piece, Wallen's album sales, they skyrocketed since the video came out. What do you make of that? And then his decision to donate the money to organizations like the Black Music Action Coalition, the extra money he says he made.
What's interesting about this time is racism has always been, for black people, racism has always been real. Racism is something we've always experienced on a day-to-day basis. Racism is something we think about every day. When we get up, you're thinking about race and racism. How am I going to be perceived? What I mean when I get up is meaning, how am I going to wear my hair today? And particularly, where will I be? What outfit should I wear? I would like to wear a hoodie because it's a fall Saturday. I want to run some errands, but I may be perceived differently. So maybe I just need to wear a sweatshirt. t-shirt, right? Or do I need to wear this suit to this business meeting when really I could just wear a polo and some slacks? But let me think differently and let them see me as safe. So these are things that black people have to deal with on a daily basis. So race is always a part of our narrative. With white people, there's always this narrative of, is it really that bad? You have a first black president, you guys are successful, right? Look at Oprah, right? So there's always these things that people point to in terms of racial progress, and there has been racial progress. But now what's interesting, Diane, is, I'm a big fan of data. We're seeing data now for the first time. When we used to talk about the cops putting and planting evidence on black people, white America never believed us until the video came out of that actually happening. We actually now have data points where elected officials publicly have made racist statements, literally racist, condescending statements, and yet people still pull the trigger and vote yes for them. That's a data point that says we support racism. And now what we're seeing in this data point with this country music star is that he has said racism and said the word, and yet his album sales have gone up. His streams have gone up. There is protest, right, and economic protest where you'll protest a brand for maybe supporting individuals who you don't seem as supportive of a community. But there also, too, is a protest on the other side of leaning into support of whatever negative, derogatory racism slurs are being hurled and saying, by me streaming, by me buying, by me supporting, I'm saying what you did is okay. I am in allyship with you, so therefore I am going to stream. So those are three now data points of where racism has inherently existed, and the economics of racist support is now that is there. Donating the $500,000 to me is just a campaign PR spin. Just as LZ mentioned, these PR firms, they get paid a lot of money to do damage control. It's pure damage control. As soon as a white individual gets in trouble with racism, who do they call first? A notable civil rights leader. They give to a notable legacy civil rights organization. And so this is part, for me, of just a PR narrative.
So LZ, how do you then move forward from something like this? How does someone like Wallen, who's now admitting that it seems that at least that there's a race problem in country music, how does country music come forward from this? But also, how does Wallen go forward? If calling, doing all those things that Mike just mentioned and you mentioned isn't the right way forward, what is?
Well, it's about continually doing the work. Once you get past this particular phase, how are you living your life going forward? Assuming, of course, the apology comes from a sincere place and you really do want to be better in this space. I will say that, as someone who is a country music fan, and everyone who listens to me on the radio station out in Los Angeles for ESPN knows this. I sing country music all the time. I have plenty of friends who are in country music. So I'm not coming at this conversation as an interloper. I'm coming in as a legitimate fan. And I remember having a conversation with the two singers from Montgomery Gentry who did a remake of a song that Kenny Chesney had done. And in that song, Kenny Chesney originally had talked about his father telling him, don't trust the colored fella. But when Montgomery Gentry redid the song, they substituted colored for the other fella, don't trust the other fella. And that song became a big hit. And when I asked them why did they change the word, they hem and they hawed about it. And I had to stop listening to their music because I just can't roll with you like that. Like, if you want to do this conversation for real, then let's do this conversation for real. Because I know plenty of country artists who can tell you everything about the Confederacy, who can tell you everything about the flag and standing up for, freedom and all of that stuff. But when it comes to Black history, they seem to draw a blank as if the Confederacy existed without.
Oh. It looks like we lost LZ.
Oh,
wait, LZ, I think we've got you back. You froze there for a second,
yeah,
but go ahead.
So I just want to say, when it comes to, country music just in general, the industry needs to really be honest with itself and start pretending as if it can talk about its Southern roots and not talk about Black pain, not talk about Black people. They've done that way too long. Now, there have been some artists, Sugarland, Kenny Chesney, as I said before, that's at least are willing to come close to the conversation. Eric Church is another one. But far too long, this industry, which is rooted a lot in the South, wants to have these conversations romanticizing this period in American history without talking about the pain. And that's part of the reason why you have an artist like this guy saying that he was ignorant, because for decades and decades and decades, the industry that he has now joined has purposely ignored black pain while talking about this romanticized version of the Southern white.
So, Mike, do you think that we'll also see a shift now that we have more black country music artists coming up in the industry?
What's interesting about this whole conversation is it's not just about erasing the black pain, but it's erasing black history from country music. Country music was birthed out of black music. Country music was birthed out of the Delta of Mississippi. Country music was birthed out of the sub-Saharan Africa with the banjo that's brought over here. And so it is black music. That's what's also so interesting about the narrative of country music. So then you have artists like Jimmy Allen and Yola and Kane Brown, Darius Rucker, who are made to feel like they're other in a genre that was really birthed out of black music and of their history and their heritage. And so I think that is one. I think we will see more country music artists that are black emerge. We see that happening like right now. One thing to know, I don't want to get overlooked, is why I think that Morgan knew what he was doing. There specifically, he says, when Michael asked him that question, he said, you know, it's not something I say all the time. It's just something I say with these group of friends. For me, that's what stood out, these group of friends. So he knew the word was bad, because if the word wasn't bad, and if the word was just slang, then why did he use it with all of his friends? And so for me, the word, you have to pay attention to the word choice of how he used it, which is why I find that whole conversation very complicated from Morgan's standpoint of view.
All right. Always great to hear from you both, LZ Granderson, Mike Muse. Thank you. And I also want to point out, LZ, something I didn't overlook. You said you like to sing country music, so I'm still awaiting my country music serenade, LZ. Thank you, guys.
It will come to you as soon as we have karaoke night.
Yes. Yes. That cannot come soon enough. Thank you, guys. Have a great one.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.